California Governor Gavin Newsom has done an about face on the issue of trans athletes. Hello, my friend. Perez Hilton here, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and this guy just launched a podcast. Very 2020 of him? I don't know. Are people still doing podcasts? I guess so. I've been doing mine since 2015. And on his new podcast, Newsom had Charlie Kirk. If you don't know who that is, be thankful. He is the founder of Turning Point USA, which seems like a bit of a scam to me. It's a nonprofit organization that promotes conservatism. How is that a nonprofit organization? But since it is a nonprofit organization, that must mean that Charlie Kirk's salary is public information, right? According to the Associated Press, Kirk was paid $407,000 at Turning Points for the year 2021. That's probably increased since then. And on his podcast, they talked about politics in general and of the shift that America took to the right. Newsom says, we are losing, meaning the Democrats. I feel it's asymmetric. The asymmetry of Donald Trump and Elon Musk sending out tweets or you doing social media to me doing a 3-minute hit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on CNN. I mean, how the hell would we compete? We're toast. His podcast is just one of the ways he's hoping to compete. And talking about competing, they do. Specifically, trans athletes. Charlie Kirk views trans women as men, so he asks a question of Newsom referring to them as such. Kirk says, would you say no men in female sports? And Newsom responds, well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It's an issue of fairness. It's deeply unfair, meaning trans women competing against biological women. And you know what? I agree with both of them. In fact, I said that 2 days ago. Remember that video about Meghan McCain versus Andy Cohen and the issue of trans athletes? I said, I think that the athletes themselves should decide. But I also was not afraid of speaking my personal belief that in addition to that, I think it's unfair. I think I even used that same word. I think it's unfair for an athlete that has gone through male puberty to compete against females. And actually, most Americans agree with that sentiment. A recent Pew Research Center survey found that 2/3 of Americans favor or strongly favor laws requiring trans athletes to compete on teams that match their birth sex. I don't think we need laws for that, but whatever. Newsom didn't totally turn his back on trans athletes and trans people in general. He did say, additionally, quote, so both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think is inherent in you, but not always expressed on the issue? Newsom said that his friends had raised this issue of fairness in sport, and as a father of 4, including 2 girls, he understood the problem. Quote, even my own friend cohort, people say, what the hell is going on? Why aren't you calling this out? When did this happen? But the timing of this all, I don't even think it's directly in response to Donald Trump. I think it's directly in response to his future ambitions. Gavin Newsom is smart-ish. He's smart. I do respect how he handled the fires in Los Angeles. Much better than LA Mayor Karen Bass. And he's way smarter than Donald Trump, I believe. So this podcast is strategic. He is making a move to the center. And if you've been paying attention, it's a move that he's been doing for a bit now. Prior to his about face on trans issues, and not a total abandoning of them, just an evolution of his thinking, he also had an evolution of his thinking on homelessness. Last year, Newsom began a very tough on homelessness stance because that's what the people want in California. And politicians want to keep getting elected. Smart. Of what he's hoping to accomplish with his podcast, he says, this is going to be anything but the ordinary politician podcast. I'm going to be talking to people directly that I disagree with, as well as people I look up to. And that's something that I respect. He does that. He appears on Fox News regularly. And I agree with him. I think it's important to listen to these voices. Some of the things they say hold weight, even if I don't agree with them. For example, at one point on the podcast, Charlie Kirk told him voters felt as if their country was slipping away. Now you have the Democrats have a choice. You can say to those people, you're racist, you're Nazis, you're fascist, you're terrible. Or you can listen and be like, why is it that a steel worker in Pittsburgh who voted for Democrats his entire life is voting for Trump despite all of, the stuff that's been thrown at him? It's a pattern, and the trans thing is just one of those things. And I've told you why I think conservatives are hyper fixated on trans people. Because it's acceptable to hate on them. Sadly. It's no longer acceptable to hate on gay people or lesbians. But it's acceptable to hate on trans people. You don't belong in this bathroom. You should not do this or that or the other. I don't think trans people are the enemy. There are some bad trans people, yes. Just like there are lots of bad non-trans people. And what he said is right. I don't believe that a person wants to be trans. It's a hard path to walk. So many times they have to resort to S work or this or the other, or they're abandoned by their families and communities, and it's a hard life. And we should treat them with compassion and understanding. And when something is unfair or has gone too far one way, correct it with justness and fairness and kindness. And I'm over politics. Especially because my ideal candidate is Pete Buttigieg. I would love Pete Buttigieg to be the next president. But I don't think he would get elected, at least not running as a Democrat. If Pete Buttigieg ran as a Republican, I think he would win. He could win. Not would, but could. So, President Gavin Newsom, I don't know. What do you think? Would you vote for him? The future. I'm just trying to be present and live my life and be happy. Lots of things to discuss. Let's get into it all in the comment section.